Hi, I'm Mindy. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm doing a wrap up for the second half of February. I read 5 books in the end of February and another 5 books in the first half of February, which I have another video about those 5 books. If you'd like to know more about those books, I'll have that video linked down below. But altogether, for the month, the shortest month of the year, I read 10 books, which is 2,223 pages and 48 hours of audio. So now let's get into the 5 books I read in the second half of February. The first one was The Haunting of Elkwood by Gwendolyn Keist. This is a gothic ghost story, haunting story, what I like to call suburban gothic. And it's about an entire neighborhood that is haunted and has a lot to do with trauma. And there's only a few surviving members of this neighborhood, and they've been through a lot. And one of them decides she needs to go back into this haunted place and find her little sister. I thought it was a very interesting take on a haunting, and it was a beautiful story. There's a sapphic love story in it. There's a whole lot of female friendship and dealing with the trauma that can occur in what seems like a picturesque, beautiful place. I really enjoyed The Haunting of Elkwood, and I gave it 4 stars. I read this book for the Fright Club, which is a book club hosted by Cliff's Dark Gems and Secrets Read, and I'll have their channels linked down below. Definitely check them out. The next 2 books that I finished were ARCs, and I have full reviews of these books, which will be linked down below. The first one is The Third Rule of Time Travel by Philip Fracassi. This was one of my most anticipated books of the year because Philip Fracassi is one of my favorite horror writers, and this was a science fiction book by him, and I wanted to check that out. And I've been really loving science fiction lately, and this book was no exception. I really loved it. I love time travel stories. This is about a woman who discovers the trick behind time travel. She and her husband create this machine that will transport your consciousness to another time in your past, and you get to live that moment again, but it's randomly. You don't know where you're gonna go. It only lasts 90 seconds, and you can't change anything. All you can do is watch. But of course, there's a lot more to it than that. Things go off the rails, and there is a lot of tension, a lot of dread being built, which is something that Philip Fracassi is really good at. So I would call this a science fiction thriller, in my opinion. The next, and I gave it 5 stars. I love this book. The next book was another science fiction arc, and that was Swarm, Replugged by James Flynn. And I also gave this 5 stars. I am really feeling the sci-fi lately. This is about a city that is plagued with high crime rates, terrible crime in this area. They come up with a prison that they will hook up all the minds of the prisoners into this hive mind machine and put the power of all those brains together to come up with answers to the biggest questions for this area. Really interesting concept. It seems like for the most part, people had good intentions with this project, but of course it goes off the rails and becomes absolutely uncontrollable. It's a fun little 100-page novella, fast, with interesting ideas and morality questions behind this sort of endeavor. I liked it. I liked it a lot. Next is Earthlings by Sayaka Murata, which is translated from Japanese. This was read for the Kelly Hooked on Books quarterly read-along. And this year, all of the quarterly reads are translated works. Earthlings is about a woman who doesn't quite feel like she fits in the world and thinks she's a magician, and she completely falls for her cousin who thinks he is an alien. And it follows these people from adolescence all the way through adulthood and the very strange life they lead. It is a weird book. It's also very quirky and also disturbing. There are disturbing things in this book. You may want to check out trigger warnings, but yeah, very strange how it has some really disturbing things, but this kind of, I don't know, lighthearted tone, like a kind of so crazy it's almost silly kind of thing going on. I loved this book. It's not going to be for everyone. Again, check trigger warnings if you need to. I always recommend Storygraph if you need those. They're on there. And I gave it 4 stars. And the last book that I finished in February was Pay the Piper by George A. Romero and Daniel Kraus. And this was a very, very loose retelling of the Pied Piper. It's set in the swamps, like the swamps of the South. And there is this creature that will come after you and lure you out of your home and into the swamp kind of thing. I love the setting. And characters were really interesting. Really liked the creature. Wish we had more of that. I read this for the Midnight Book Society book club, hosted by Slime and Slashers. I gave it 3.5 stars. This was also, because it was a retelling and had some folklore in it, it also was my one read I actually got to for Folklore February, hosted by Cat's Novel Adventures. So I'm glad I got to squeeze that one in the end of February. I am really happy with the 10 books that I got to in the month. I really enjoyed all of my reads this month. I did have a couple of DNFs, but I don't talk about those until the end of the year. Rather just not talk about the negative most of the year. I would love to hear if you read any of these books. What did you think of them? And I will be back very soon with another book-related video. Thanks. Bye.